When do we start?
Right now, here we go.
Okay.
Good day, folks. This is Dave Mangan, the Veteran Service Officer for the town of Wakefield, Massachusetts. And this is our podcast, Kilroy Was Here, with the EAR for your ear. And today I have a guest on board with us, Jerry Sweeney, who's a Korean War veteran who fought back in 1952-53, right there towards the end of it, I believe.
51, 52.
Oh, look at him. He's the guy that got them all angry. Okay, Jerry, very good. Jerry is a Wakefield resident. He came to my office a few years back, and we did file a claim for him. Jerry is a Purple Heart recipient, a proud member of the Combat Support Group in Korea, fighting the enemies at large. Jerry had some experiences. I think he's going to bring a few to us today. But before I go any further, I want to remind everybody that my office as a Veteran Service Officer is available to the veterans and the spouses of veterans, and in some cases the children of Wakefield, between the Veterans Benefits and the Chapter 115, which is a Massachusetts-based benefit. You can call my office at 781-246-6377, and anytime leave a message. I am there on Mondays, Wednesdays, and Thursdays, unless there's a holiday, of course, on Monday, which gives me the Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday hours. Next week, as a matter of fact, is a holiday, Martin Luther King Day, so I'll be in there the 3 days. It's an 18-hour-a-week job, and it's going to be advancing, I'm sure, over time to a much larger program, because the benefits that are needed in our community have grown exponentially to the point where it's overwhelming. Now, as you know, the state has come up with a new program on the HERO Act, as well as the legislation on the PACT Act that was passed recently, pertaining to any of the exposures that veterans may have had to the burn pits in Afghanistan or Iraq, and or any military exposures to herbicides, from Guam to Okinawa to Vietnam, to various bases around the country even. You can Google that, the PACT Act, and they have presumptives. So if any veterans out there have come along with any of those illnesses, please be sure and contact my office so that I can assist you in getting the benefits that you so rightly deserve. Okay, Jerry, welcome aboard.
Thank you.
And listen,
Pleasure being here.
How long have you been in Wakefield, Jerry?
Oh, I've been here about 65 years, somewhere in there.
That's all?
That's all.
Did you build a gazebo there by the lake? Because I'll tell you what, that's a long time, brother.
Well, I was married 60 years.
Oh, God bless you.
I lost my wife about 2 years ago, so I guess.
Yeah.
So I guess
sorry.
it's about 62 years, because we moved here. First year we were married. So.
Now, you were from New York, is that correct?
Chicago.
Chicago. God forgive me then. I'm sorry.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, well, Wakefield's been good to you, and you've been good to Wakefield. That's a marriage in the community spirit, isn't it? Huh?
Yeah.
Now, you're also a member of the Ancient Honorable Artillery Company in Boston, founded in 1638, I hear.
Yes, I am.
It's an amazing organization. At one time, were you the commander there?
Yeah, I was commander for the year 2008 to 2009. The commanders have a 12-month service, and it's not subject to renewal after that. So
I understand the Ancient Honorable, they're benefactors, aren't they? Do they do a lot of work, charitable work out there?
Yeah, they have a charitable affiliate, of which I'm also on the board of. And they raise money for other charitable activities related to veterans, but principally they raise money for the benefit of the Ancient Honorable Artillery Company, which does not qualify as a 501c3, but the association does. So people making contributions to that have tax-deductible deductions.
Well, that's wonderful. That's wonderful. Now, I know that the different commanders. I've been to one of your showings over there, a meeting, and it's wonderful. I was very impressed with it. Uh, and going forward, I can see the growth of the organization, and I'm sure if people were interested in that and wanted to join the Ancient Honorable, that they could go down to the Faneuil Hall, or they can Google it. It's definitely the Googleable ability, and they can look into that if they have the spirit or they have the soul inclination to do so.
Yes, there's a there's a museum on the top floor of Faneuil Hall, and it's open every day except holidays. And unfortunately, it's not open on weekends, Saturday and Sunday.
Okay.
And it's no charge, and it's quite interesting to go up there and see it. The Ancient Honorable Artillery Company is the oldest military organization in the Western Hemisphere.
Oh, sure, 1638. My goodness,
Yeah.
the Pilgrims just arrived.
Yeah,
18 years earlier.
Well, it's the third oldest in the world. We were founded by a member of the Honorable Artillery Company of London, which predates us by 100 years.
Wow.
And then there is one organization of which we also have affiliations. And as a matter of fact, we will be visiting them this year, and that is the Swiss Guard for the Pope.
Wow.
And they are the oldest military group.
So you folks are going to be going over to the Vatican then, I take it?
Yeah, we'll be visiting there in September.
What's amazing, I think Biden was supposed to go, wasn't he? But something came up. But he sent a nice letter of to the Pope,
Yeah.
which was nice. But I've never been to Italy. As a matter of fact, my wife and I are planning sometime in the near future. I know I want to go really bad, and God has an interesting sense of humor. He might just send me there one of these days.
Yeah, well, you might just
Well, the
go
Pope-
as a guest.
Well, the Pope's been dying to meet me, Hey, before I forget, there is an event coming up here in Wakefield on January 25th. If this podcast goes out in time for it, this may be recorded for later. But if it's done before then, there is a comedy show they're having at the West Side Social Club on January 25th from 7 o'clock to 10 o'clock, I think, or 9. No, it's going to be 10. That's right. And it's to raise money for the 4th of July parade here in Wakefield. It's one of the many events they're going to have coming up in the near future. This one's going to have some really wonderful comedians at it. And I might join them as an opener because I've never done that before. But hey, they've asked me to be Rodney Dangerfield. I'll tell you, I get no respect. But I can do a couple of his numbers just to get a few laughs out of people these days. We need as many laughs as we can get.
That's for sure.
The dynamics of the changing seasons of time have cast all of us into the circle of God's will. But Jerry, let me ask you something else. Now let's get back to your service. I think the guests the listeners may know mine, as I was United States Air Force in Vietnam on the F-105 Thunder Chief aircraft, which supported the war through combat support out of Thailand from 5 different bases. Now the F-105 aircraft was originally in Germany as a nuclear tactical bomber in the event that Russia had gone into Europe and invaded them and NATO alliance. Therefore, when we did move them to Thailand as a détente, if you will, against the Chinese potential of bringing down a 1 million-man army, which would have wiped us out in 2 weeks. We could not get reinforcements there fast enough, nor bombard them with artillery fast enough. But we did tell them at the Paris peace talks that we had the F-105 tactical nuclear bomber in Thailand. When Johnson was interviewed by the news media, he was asked, "Are there any nuclear weapons in Vietnam?" And Johnson replied, "There are no nuclear weapons in Vietnam." Hell, we had him in Thailand. He didn't ask that question. But they didn't know that anyhow. A lot of secrets went on at that time, as everyone knows out there that studied the Vietnam War. and that is that we could not get all that information out to the everyday folks because it would have deteriorated our security and for the soldiers. And a lot of them couldn't even call home. We didn't have phone capability. We used ham radios, or they called them Mars radios, is what we used back then. And you had to say over every time you finished talking, and it was always disruptive. But we were kids. We were 19, 20 years old average, and did the best we could. I was TDY, which is temporary duty, back and forth from Vietnam, South Vietnam, and back to Thailand. The F-105 aircraft was the fastest in our inventory. It was the most dependable aircraft for that particular purpose, if needed. As a matter of fact, the nuclear bomb that it carried, the Mk-28, it had a parachute on it, so that it wouldn't go down so quick that the pilot couldn't get out of the danger zone. But 9 times out of 10, they wouldn't have anyhow. They've already did the math, the logistics on it, and it wouldn't have worked. But I've flown in the aircraft, and I've been the speed of sound. I crewed 3 aircraft. I was an E5 at 20 years old, and I had 9 crew, 3 for each aircraft that worked for me. And one day I was very depressed. My grandmother had passed away, and my best friend, Michael from Cambridge, was killed. He was a Marine, great guy. There were 6 of us that went over, and 3 came back. And Michael, great guy. I still honor him to this day. He's on the wall in Washington, along with the other 2. And so Mike and I were going to meet up in Saigon and take our R&R to Australia. That didn't happen, so I was a little depressed. And of course, my first wife left me and took off to Canada with a boss, and I was a little depressed. So my Captain DeYoung, who's since passed, from California, great guy, he took me up on the plane because I was an in-flight crew chief, and I had my egress training. Egress means how to get out of the plane if something should happen. There's a system. You can't just say, I want to get out now, But there's actually a secondary if the pilot or the co-pilot, the person, the navigator in the back seat, were to be injured, the pilot can eject that person, and the person in the back can eject the pilot. Which involves a lot. But anyhow, I went up, and I'm still waiting for my soul to catch up to me. I've been Mach 1.5. So anyhow, that's who I am as far as military. And being a veteran service officer now for the town, it's an exciting opportunity for me. And anyone else that wants to get into the field, any veterans that want to become veteran service officers, you can go to LinkedIn. On occasion, there are several opportunities out there. So enough of me, Jerry. Let's talk about you. You're the guest. I just want to give them a brief profile in case this is their first-time listeners here. So you are from Chicago, the Windy City.
Yeah.
What do you think the wind we had here recently, huh?
Oh, boy.
Yeah. Imagine. How was it in Korea, Jerry? Well, you were at the reservoir, weren't you?
Well, I got there just after the Chosin Reservoir battle, but it was my unit, basically, that was involved with it. But the Chosin is like the second to third week of December of 50. I got there in 51, February 51. And some of my members were still there from the reservoir days. Precisely, my captain commanding was. And he, by the way, was Captain Barrow, and Captain Barrow ultimately, years later, became Commandant of the Marine Corps.
Wow, that's prestigious.
Yeah.
You're a United States Marine. You guys are the front line, the vanguard, if you will, of defense.
Well, we thought so.
Well, I had used in Vietnam, and the Marines, if I was ducking, they were standing up. And they ran towards the bullets, and most of us, we just ducked.
Yeah, well, I'm a little partial to Marines, but anyway,
No,
I have to agree.
Yeah, we had a good time at that birthday party at the convention center this year, didn't we?
Very good, yeah.
I'm hoping to go again next year. Jimmy
up to
Carter's
you.
going to take care of that for us.
Great.
Good guy.
Great.
Good guy. And so the movie by Hudner there, you saw that movie?
Yes, Tom.
Devotion, Tom
Right.
Hudner. You knew Tom, didn't you?
I did. I know him quite well, actually. He was, the movie is about his heroics and the fact he was a Medal of Honor recipient. He also was a member of the Ancient Honorable Artillery Company, and he was also a Korean War veteran, and I, at the time, was also president of the Korean War Veterans Association for Massachusetts.
Mm.
So Tom and I had quite a number of joint speaking commitments when I was president of the Korean War Veterans, and also he had highways dedicated in his honor, in which I participated in those ceremonies with him. But quite often we would be on the same speaking platform, and he would precede me, and then afterwards I would have to give a speech, and I said, "Geez, Tom,
How do you beat that?
it isn't fair." I said, "You are so much better than I was at speaking that you just overwhelmed them, and then I'm kind of an afterthought."
Well, humility before honor sometimes, Jerry.
Yeah.
That's nothing wrong with that.
But he was a great guy. We got along very, very well together.
Yeah, his daughter lives in, is it the daughter? No, not that, I'm sorry. She is the commander of the USS Hudson ship.
Yeah.
Is a Wakefield resident here.
Oh, really?
Yep.
I was unaware of that.
Yeah, Shelby Nickerton.
Yeah.
She's be retiring now. She was the commander, and the ship itself, that's named after Tom Hudner, was in the Persian Gulf area during the last combat missions they had. They have she got the Bronze Star for the work she did with her crew, but she was the guest speaker at our Veterans Day this year, and she was introduced by Thomas Hudner Jr.,
Yeah.
who in the past has come to the Galvin Middle School and spoke on Memorial Day, and he brought the Medal of Honor with him on display for people to see, which is quite an achievement. It really is. I mean, it's the highest medal you can receive, really, in this country that has any. I mean, generals salute people with that. If I was a private and I had a Medal of Honor, a general would have to salute me.
Yeah.
Imagine that, huh?
Yeah, pretty good stuff.
Great history behind it. We'll talk about that in the future.
The Medal of Honor Society
Yep.
visits different locations each year for their annual meeting, and the location for the most visited city is Boston,
Okay.
because they seem to feel we treat them the best.
Now we got the 250th anniversary coming up here, and that's going to be a great year, 2025.
Yeah.
In Boston, we're the prime target for all these wonderful ceremonies that'll be coming up from Lexington to Bunker Hill, right down the line. And I'm looking forward to that. As a matter of fact, we have a dedication coming up. Mark your calendars on May 31st. We're having the rededication of the memorial we have in town, the Civil War Memorial, and we have reenactors going to be there. You can go on the website, the Wakefield Town website, and you can see the highlighted areas that we're going to be promoting that day. We have had a committee on that, and we've looked at all the different resources from the Red Schoolhouse to the library, right down the line, and it's going to be wonderful. Now, we're not going to have Memorial Day and that at the same time, because that'd be kind of conflicting, so we have moved them apart for two separate ceremonies.
Yeah.
And the Veterans Advisory Board, retired Major Paul Cancellieri, he'll be hopefully getting the cannons for us again, so we can have the 21-105 howitzers do a salute across Quannapowitt. Last year, Reading was a little upset because they didn't feel they get notified. We did tell everybody, all the surrounding communities, with good communications, but one person called in, was a little angry, and as we said, well, the good thing they weren't live shows, your Cumberland Farms would be gone. But no, we were kidding around. She laughed it off. She thought it was great. But going forward, the movie Devotion.
Yes.
I brought you to that movie, and
Right.
We had a wonderful time there.
Excellent. Thank you again.
Oh, don't have to thank me, Jerry. After all, you got the snacks, or I got the snacks. You paid which we worked it out, didn't we? Yeah.
We split, I guess.
We split it down. That's right. That's
yeah.
what military does, right? It's family.
Right.
And right now, I don't know if you're watching any of the appointments for the Donald Trump's appointees for the Pentagon.
Yeah.
Pete Hegseth was going through a drilling today.
Yeah.
And to me, it's just my opinion, because everyone's entitled to an opinion. It's what makes our country great.
Yeah.
And, it doesn't matter who you are, what you are, you're an American first. And you have the choice. I don't care if someone says, I don't like who you voted for. Well, that's okay. I like who you voted for because you got a chance to vote. That was your choice. That's
right.
all there is to it. Don't be angry at someone because of that. Be happy that as an American, you have that option.
Right.
And you want it to be focused on collectively unifying the spirit of what makes this country so good, so great, should I say, Because I know of no more encouraging fact than the unquestionable ability of a nation to elevate itself than by its conscious endeavors, all beginning with the spirit of the individual. Now, at some point, I'm going to collectively gather all the information I've been experiencing over the 5 years, the stories that have been told to me from the combat. Some had to open up for their post-traumatic stress difficulties, and I would share with them my experiences in Vietnam. And at that point in time, I'd like to call it the land of invisible kings. Because you see, Jerry, in my opinion, the veterans are the invisible kings. They fought for this country. 1% of the population on any given time are the veterans, okay? And because of that, like in the old days, the Crusades, all the kings were people from the Crusades on down the line that became kings or princes or whatever. Well, in this society today, these are invisible kings who sacrificed their spirit, their families, their lives, and their livelihoods, in many cases, to secure the democracy we have and share.
Well, it's very well stated. Thank you.
No, my pleasure. I believe me, there's this job as a veteran. I didn't go looking for this job back 6 years ago. No, I didn't. I went down to see the veteran service officer in Melrose, where I lived for 34 years. And my wife had passed away 18 years ago now, and I met Christine about an hour later. No, I met her over a year later, and she's a nurse, retired. She's my age, and anyhow, I was on my disability for about 7 years before I realized. Someone said to me, if you're married, there's a little bit of a boost in the compensation for a spouse. And of course, I didn't tell her that because she'd, well, no, I'm kidding. But no, I told her, and she goes, wow, go down and put in for it. So I did. Mm-hmm. And while I was in Karen Burke's office, who, by the way, is a tremendous director for our senior center here in Wakefield. She's amazing. She has brought that place up and done so much for it. She was the director of Veteran Services in Melrose at the time. And I talked to her about that. She, absolutely, Dave, I'll put you in for that, which she did. It was not retroactive, though, which is fine. I just didn't read the fine print. But she said to me in that May, she said, would you been to the wall yet? Have you been to the wall? I said, no, it's been tough for me to go to that wall. I have friends on it, but I think I'm ready to go now. And she said, well, Melrose has a club for veterans at the high school, and we go every year, and there's a spot open. Would you like to join us? So I said, yeah, how much is it going to cost me? And she said, nothing. You'll be the oldest veteran on the bus.
No question.
But I said, sure, I'll go. And it was my birthday. So it was like a little present I got from the big guy, So I went, and on the way down there, I met a gentleman on the bus who was a veteran service officer for Revere, Mark Silvestri. And Mark said to me, he's from Revere, and my wife, Christine, is from Revere. And I said, well, my wife's from Revere. Maybe you might know her, the Fulkino. Oh, yeah. Yeah, her dad was the principal of a high school. And I think she was my school nurse at the Beachmont. So I called Christine right away, and it was like old home week on the phone with the two of them. And we finished the conversation. That's when Mark said to me, Dave, there's an opening, there's a position open for a veteran service officer in your town of Wakefield. You'd be perfect for it. You should go for that. And I said, well, I don't know. I'm retired now from Boston College, and I had already I've been off for a year. And as a second time retiring, I retired from Frito-Lay 23 years before that. But I took a year off, but I was getting fidgety, Jerry. I needed something to do. I did all my fishing, my golfing, my tormented my kids as much as I could, and my neighbors, and then I decided to take the job. And the second interview, they hired me. So I didn't go for this job; they came to me. So I know I'm in the right place at the right time. And
It certainly seems to have fit very well for the town and for yourself.
yeah, I think that's it. That's the magic of Saturday. You know, you can, if you don't like what you do, you shouldn't be there. It's if you like your job, you'll never work a day in your life. You know, and a lot of professionals can back that up. I've been told that by some very, very successful professionals. When I worked on foreign cars, I was up in Chelmsford at Jaguar Service. I used to work in the fighter plane, so cars weren't that hard. Not really. They're all the designs of mechanics are the same. They just satisfy the shape of the vehicle usually. And so one of the cars I was working on, the gentleman came in. It was a Jaguar E-Type, beautiful cars. And the owner's there talking to me, and he introduced himself to me. He says, yeah, my name is, well, I don't guess I say his name here right now, but Bob Colombo. I can see he's passed now. Bob Colombosian. So I said, Colombosian, that's Armenian. He says, yes, it is. So I said, Bade, vici beses. Shadlov, Tunesabush. As we talked, I speak some Armenian. I said, he goes, where'd you learn that? And I said, I worked in a camera store in Cambridge back in the 60s, 65, 66. And the guy that owned it was Jerry Bogosian. And Jerry passed recently, too. Not recently, but a year, COVID. He said to me, that's my cousin, Jerry. You know Jerry? We talked for, it's like old home week, right? Then he says to me, I says, your name, I said, sounds like the Colombo, like the yogurt company. He says, that's my company. My name is Bob Colombo Gin. I kept the Colombo there, but he had a great business here for a while, quite a while. And we talked, Jerry was in combat in World War II. And Jerry offered me a full scholarship to the Rochester School of Photography to keep me out of Vietnam, Jerry.
Yeah.
But didn't do it. As you know, the draft. They drafted in the Korean War, didn't they?
Well, I was a reservist that got activated. So
Wow.
They weren't exactly drafting then, but shortly after that, they did coming in, I guess, for Vietnam.
Mm-hmm.
And I joined in high school.
Yep.
And senior year of high school, and actually I joined when I was 17, so I had to have my parents' signature ahead, and my dad signed it, and he had regrets afterward when he got the message by telegram that I'd been wounded, but I think he finally got over it when he saw that I still had most of my parts.
Yeah. Yeah, my dad dropped me off in South Boston by the Fargo building. And he was World War II veteran, 38 years in reserves, all that. And we came from, it was 8 of us in my family, and my brothers were in service. One of them was in Vietnam before me. But my dad looked at me and he said, have a nice war. And he was crying, and his eyes were all wet as he said that to me, and I knew he was worried and all that. But it's what it does. And did you ever get your bonus from Korea?
Bonus.
See that? This is another benefit. See? Now they give you $300.
Oh, I probably got it, sure.
On your DD-214, they usually stamp it if it's been done. Okay. In most
I'll have
cases.
to check it.
Check it. I have access to get that for you.
Well, sign me up.
As a matter of fact.
If I haven't gotten it, I probably got it 3 times already.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Come on, you're a lawyer. It's not possible. But for example, I had a gentleman recently, and the guy on the other end at the bonus committee, he was new, so he thought that the person I was calling, because I didn't see the stamp on his DD-214.
Yeah.
He actually had passed away in 2007 from Agent Orange, and his wife, who lived in Billerica, said he never put a claim in, but I knew her uncle, and his uncle was Camp Lejeune, and he's got a few months left now from that water, that hazard water they were drinking and cooking and bathing in. And you remember the commercials, all the TV things and everything, they had them on. Well, you don't need to go through lawyers. If you're a Marine, was in Camp Lejeune from 1953 to 1985, give me a call. we can put in a claim for you if you have any of those presumptive ailments, okay, folks? And I took care of Al, we'll call him Al, and he said to me that his niece, her husband died from that agent thing that they have out there. Oh, Agent Orange. She said, yeah, have her call me. So Barbara called me, and she said, oh, don't even waste your time. He never put a claim in, so I'm not entitled to anything. I said, yes, you are, young lady. So I had her come to the office with a death certificate. I looked at it, and 3 of the 7 presumptives were on his death certificate. So I applied for the dependent indemnity compensation for her, and along with all the documents that follows up, the 534, et cetera, et cetera. And about 4 months later, she called and said, I got a call from the VA. I got that DIC thing you put me in for. So now, and she got some retroactive on that too. And then she said to me, I live in Billerica. If someone told me that there might be a tax abatement for being a surviving spouse of a 100% disabled veteran. I said, Barbara, I'll call you back. I called the clerk's office in Billerica, and the young lady that answered, I explained it to her, and she said, oh, in Billerica, for that spouse of the deceased veteran, 0 taxes.
Wow.
See, it's different for each town, every city.
Yeah.
Don't go moving to Billerica if you know that. But Wakefield has a nice one as well.
Yeah.
It's segmented by the percentage of your disability. So from 100% to 80 to 90, 70, 60, 50, it's all increments of 10. The VA doesn't do like 85% or 45 or 40. They do increments of 10.
Well, I think I must have missed that because I didn't have any disability until I met you, and through your good graces and abilities, I received a good satisfactory percentage of disability, and still am till this day, and for which I will be eternally grateful for.
You don't know. Listen, Jerry, I owe you. This is how it goes, man. When you do warfare, and it doesn't go away. And I try to tell people, you go from the combat fields to the threat of death, back to the Society of America, and it's a free-spirited nation, and you hope to hell nothing happens to you there, but some cases it has, as you know. It's hard to adjust. It's hard to get into it, back into the realm. It took me a while. It took me probably 15, 20, 25 years. And luckily, when I was at Boston College, I was the catering operations manager there. And I ran a restaurant program as well in the building at Walsh Hall. And it was called channel surfing. Because the kids, they surf the channels, looking to watch this, watch that, and so we themed it out at like the History Channel, and we had a dinner around it. We had MTV, which was the radio station, or the television station they had then for MTV, Cartoon Network, the kids loved it. They were lining up to come to the dinner. It was a China meal with a carving station and special desserts and mocktail drinks and everything. So it was a good deal, And so anyhow, I had my wait staff would come in early, and I told them, bring your homework, bring your books, because we'll probably be set up early enough where all you have to worry about is, making sure we're ready to go. And the young lady I had as a hostess, South Korean exchange student, Ara Ko, is in New York now. Wonderful, wonderful hostess. I walked by the podium and she had a book opened. And I said, wow, that's Da Nang Air Force Base in South Vietnam. Why are you reading that? Oh, I take a course here called The History of the Vietnam War at Home and Abroad. I said, really? I thought you folks all forgot about us. So I went to my computer and I printed out a couple of 8x10 photographs of that area. And one of them was an explosion of an aircraft. And here, show these to your professor. I think he'd like to see those. So Professor Seth Jacobs comes to my office 4 days later and closed the door and introduced himself. And he said, I teach the class at Araco and brought me those photographs. Would you come in and talk to the students? And I said, well, I don't talk about the war much, but you know what? I don't want these guys to be forgotten about. So I figured put 25, 30 kids in the class. I'll come in. I said, I'll do that. So he told me where it was going to be at McGuinn 121 at 12 o'clock on this particular Wednesday. So I got home and I was telling my daughter, Heather, who was there with her boyfriend at the time, who's now my son-in-law. I said, hey, Heather, I'm going to be talking at Boston College to some students. how should I approach that? I've never done it before. And her boyfriend at the time, John, he says to me, I go to UMass Amherst and I'm studying computer technologies. Do you have any photographs from over there? I said, I have over 100 of them. Yeah, being a photographer before I get drafted. I said, he goes, we're working on this thing called a PowerPoint. And we can put that on a CD for you and you can show all the kids. So I said, okay, they have television there probably in the room. And so we went up to my office at home there and he put it together in about 20 minutes. And I brought it in and I said, let me call my IT guy, Jimmy. Jimmy was going to meet me there, show me how to put this thing together in the classroom. So I get to McGuinn 121. Jerry, it was a classroom of over 350 students.
Wow.
Now, they hadn't arrived yet, and I even said to Jimmy, where's the classroom? Because this is it. And that's a theater-sized screen. I said, I can't do this. I can't talk to 350 people. Oh, my goodness. So, and being a Jesuit college, there's a crucifix up on the wall. I looked at it and said, Jesus, what have you given me to do here? I can't do this. You know what I said, Jerry? Let those who can't be here today speak through me.
Well,
and I haven't shut up. And like you, when I opened you up that day in the office, you were reluctant at first. I could tell. But I explained to you how we had to get the detail in so the person reading the claim that we were submitting would get a feel for it. They would know there's a document called a 4138. That's in support of the claim. You can fill 523, the claim itself, and say, okay, I got ringing in my ears, that's tinnitus. Oh, I can hardly, my wife keeps thinking it's going deaf, and she thinks it's selective hearing. When I can't hear her sometimes because of the high-pitched turbines I was exposed to, or the fodder from a 105 howitzer, or whatever, and or the jet turbines on the deck of an aircraft carrier. They never supplied the right hearing apparatus to cover it. The earplugs were bad, the headphones were bad, or sometimes you kept one of the headphones up so you could hear the incoming rockets. Nevertheless, the claim gets put in, and the support of the claim is short and sweet. Some people go on with an epiphany, they handwrite them. They hate the handwritten ones, I've found. So the VSO, the person that's handling your case, if it's a DAV or a VFW, then they can do that as well. They should type it out so that it's easy reading for the reader. And you want them to feel what you're committing for. If you had hurt your foot or whatever. One claim I had recently, a gentleman had hurt his foot in combat. And he had a camel toe, whatever it was, with his toe. And they gave him a disability for that. They gave him 30% for that, okay? But then, because the toe was so bad, he wasn't walking properly, and it hurt his knee. So now his knee had to be operated on because of he would walk like a ridge runner, you know what I mean? One leg shorter than the other. And because of that disability, now the knee damage is what they call secondary. It's attached to that foot problem. He got an increase of an additional 30%, which gave him 60%. So it all adds up. But the weird part about the mathematics and the VA claim, Jerry, is, for an example, if you have a foot problem and you got 30% for that, but you get 10% for your tinnitus, your hearing, you would think it'd be 40%, wouldn't you? But yeah. It's not. It's not, because the hearing has nothing to do with the foot, and the foot has nothing to do with the hearing. Yeah. So they're not connected. If they are connected, then in fact they will be an increase. Now, there are some cases where post-traumatic stress, they can connect like acid reflux, GERD, as a secondary, or perhaps hypertension if it's a heart condition because of the post-traumatic stress, and a person's waking up screaming and all that stuff, and they're still in the battlefield, you know what I'm saying? So the VA will give them help for that. They have tremendous therapists. They really do. They've come a long way in 10 years. 10, 15 years ago, it was horrible. Horrible. They just weren't there. When I put my first claim in, I ended up a year before they contacted me, close to a year. And I had buried my wife, and I had my granddaughter with me at Quanta Power here, and it was a Saturday morning. My daughter said, Dad, please take Natalie to the park. And she's driving me crazy this morning. So I did. And we were there for about half an hour. We got there early. There was hardly no cars there. And I backed the car in. And we were on the swings, the seesaw, everything, having a great time. And now we're in line at the swings for an hour. I said, Natalie, let's go, honey. It's getting really busy and crowded here. You've been here an hour. Let's go get an ice cream. Papa, I can't have ice cream in the morning. I said, sweetheart, you with your grandfather. You can have ice cream all the time. Okay, so we went to Cravings here in Wakefield, right? But on the way, I'm walking to the car, and there's people looking for a parking spot. And this gentleman comes up, and he's got an Audi or something, and he says to me, oh, I said to him, hey, I'm pulling out. Why don't you go in here? You always take 2 spots? Well, when I got here, there were no cars, pal. They parked differently. You can get the spot here. So I'm strapping Natalie. It's a convertible that I had. The roof was down. Put her in the back seat. And she says, Papa, he's a mean man. I know, sweetheart, because he looks at my license plate and says, oh, fancy plate. Where were you? I said, I was in Vietnam. He says, why don't you go back? Okay. At that point in time, I was being tested. We all get that, okay? Now, I couldn't do anything with the kids there, okay? I would not do anything. So that's when I said, you watch what I do here, sweetheart. I walked over to the window. He had twins in the back seat, little kids. I said, God loves you, Jesus loves you, and today I got to love you. I said, behave yourself, you're going to get the spot. So I drove out, and Natalie says, Papa, how come you were nice to him? Well, I said, sweetheart, maybe yesterday his mommy died, or he found out he's very sick and he's going to be dying. And right now he's very angry. And when a person's angry, it's a very lonely place. And he wanted Papa to be angry with him. You're a good man, Papa. So that did it for me right there. I knew I needed to get help from the VA. All right, because I was triggered. And it wasn't right. If I was in a bar, Jerry, and I was drinking at the time I started to drink more than I should, and if someone said to me, I'd be in jail to this day doing this podcast from the prison, But anyhow, so you never know what turn of events is going to take place. And I walked Quannapowitt after that for over a year to get myself together, and I lost some weight and I got better shape, and I was like Rocky, Jerry. How about that? But nevertheless, your adversities have been hard, but you're a smart man. The loss of Mary and the transitions that you took along those lines, and being a veteran, that we're, as a family, veterans. We are there for you too, and you know that.
I do know that, and I've experienced it with your help to acquire quite a number of benefits from the veterans, which I had never even aware of, much less involved with, received any benefits. And I had next to nothing as far as any kind of benefits. And today I have all the benefits I think I'm entitled to.
And you're over 30%, so you get the health care completely, medications, all your prescription drugs, and they'll mail them to you. The VA has come a long way. It really has.
I can't say enough about them. I've heard that in other parts of the country they have difficulties, but I have nothing but high marks and great praise for anything I've had to do with veterans in this community.
Massachusetts is great. I would tell you, it really is.
Yes, it is.
And the senators and the congressmen, the people in Massachusetts that run the political aspects of it, there's some ins and outs on it. Of course there is. Every state has that. But over the last few years, the Chapter 115 program, you can Google that. VA.gov has the information, and mass.gov, okay? VAmass.gov. And you will see what Chapter 115 is. A lot of surviving spouses of veterans who passed away from World War II or Korea are still around. They are entitled to aid and attendance, perhaps, or they're entitled to the Chapter 115, which is the only state in the country that has this program. It assists indigencies, veterans and spouses who are having a hard time paying rent, who have very little money in the bank. As a matter of fact, there's a guideline for the poverty level and all that. That's 200% of it below it, and that's all factored in. So everyone gets a different amount. Some towns have 40, 50 people on it, like Brockton and the larger towns and cities. Wakefield has they're currently 9. We've had as many as 25 over the years. But then again, when I first came on board, we had about that many, but I went ahead and I sought out VA benefits rather than the state benefit for them. And they were fine. They were able to coordinate that into their budgetary allotments. And the annuity program we have, another thing, they don't have this anywhere else but Massachusetts. A 100% disabled veteran, is given now $2,500 a year, tax-free, at $1,250 in February and $1,250 in August. That's automatically put into their accounts. And it's an annuity program that's been going on now for quite a while. But it's an amazing, because that too, if there's been a quagmire or something along the road, the way, they would be entitled to retroactive on that. That woman I was talking about earlier, whose husband never put a claim in, and she got the DIC, the dependent indemnity compensation. I talked to the folks in Boston on the annuity program, and she was able to get the annuity retroactive to 2007. So it was a nice chunk of change, and she didn't have to sell a house and move out. She could keep it. As a matter of fact, she was on stage this past Veterans Day and received the Medal of Fidelity, which is a medal that the state gives for anyone who has died from a service-connected death. Now, there's the Medal of Liberty, which is given if a person dies in combat. For an example, one of my veterans' brothers had died in World War II. He shot at a kamikaze coming at the ship, the USS Hancock, and they hit it, and they blew up the kamikaze, but all the debris fell on himself and his shipmates, and 64 of them were killed. They went to the house to tell the mom and all that, and the town, they knew about it. The town didn't really know about it, but they do now, because when I got him the Medal of Liberty, I awarded it to his brother, and he got the front page of the Daily Item. And he called me, and almost in tears, saying, my brother never really got recognized in this town until this medal was awarded to him, and by General McGurn out of Hanscom Field. It was done during COVID, and General came to the senior center and awarded it there privately with us. But the Medal of Liberty is great, and the legislation at the time, I was putting veterans in for it who died from Agent Orange, and they were denying it. And I said, well, wait a minute. This is a service-connected death. It just took longer for them to die. It took 40 years. But they got that in combat. So it's a bullet that hit them, that they succumbed to their death because of it. And legislation went through. It wasn't just my doing, it was a team effort. Everybody was out there complaining about it, but I just joined the wagon on it, as a team should. And they came up with the Medal of Fidelity.
Oh,
it's a
that's
beautiful
great.
medal. And I think that's going to wrap us up for the day here, Jerry, unless you want to add and contribute some more information to this podcast.
No, it's the most interesting. I've learned quite a bit just listening to you, as I always do when I have a session with you. And it's been a real pleasure, and thank you for inviting me to accompany you on this little discussion.
Journey. Yeah, it's a journey. And listen out there, veterans, we have a website that Kilroy was here, spelled H-E-A-R. And if you're not familiar with what Kilroy was in World War II, you can Google that. It's got quite a story behind it. Too lengthy for me to give it to you right now, but if you'd like to come in and share some of your experiences in the battlefields, or even at home in a base in the States, if something took place that you'd like to share with us, feel free to do that. Contact me at my office, 781-246-6377. Have a wonderful weekend, folks. Thank you very much. And Jerry, thank you, sir.
Thank you, Dave.